My philosophy really in life is just say yes to whatever comes your way. Imagine joining the military and then you move away and you do things you've never done before. You join industry. I mean, you just say yes. I want optometrists to just keep an open mind and say yes, just like I did with my profession, with my career, with my life, is get optometry to do that in general so that we can continue to truly make a difference.
Hey, eyes and shine there, my friends and colleagues, and welcome to the I Give a Damn podcast, brought to you by Fluorescene Media, the sim company behind ODs on Facebook. Today's episode is sponsored by Bausch Lomb, Blink NutriTears. If you have not seen or heard of Blink NutriTears yet, Blink NutriTears is a new clinically proven supplement for dry eyes and is designed to help hydrate the eyes from within for long-lasting comfort. Developed with the expertise of both eye care and nutritional experts, Blink NutriTears features a unique formula of antioxidants, including that of lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin D, and curcumin. And unlike many other supplements, it does not contain omega-3. As shown in a clinical study published in Frontiers in Ophthalmology, Blink NutriTears provided noticeable, continuous symptom relief within just 2 to 4 weeks. And it was able to do this by addressing dry eyes from the inside out, promoting healthy tear production and reducing patient discomfort. So, if you're looking for a first-line protocol for your dry eye management plan, then Blink NutriTears could be what you've been searching for. Now available in the eye care aisle at national retailers and online. Now, let's get back to the episode. Today, our special guest is Dr. Jill Saxon, and in today's discussion, she shares her unique career path from serving as an optometrist in the U.S. Navy to transitioning to private practice and then saying yes to an opportunity working in industry. I think for any doctor who is looking for their own career path, trying to find their place, as well as find meaning in what they do, Jill shares some incredible insights. So, without further ado, please turn up those volumes, and here we go with Dr. Jill Saxon.
So, I'm Jill Saxon. I am an optometrist that works at Bausch Lomb. My title is Executive Director of Professional Strategy. So, what does that really mean? Well, we're sort of still defining that 10 years later, but the reality is I'm a representative of the organization, and not necessarily the organization, but for optometry within the organization. So everybody's voice outward needs to come in for us to be able to do what we do so that we can provide doctors and patients with what they need. And to be able to be an advocate for optometry, shape the future, that's my role now as part of the organization, and just being really the voice of the doctor.
And that's, I can imagine, because Bausch Lomb is huge, right? They do so many different things with so many different facets, right? So that's awesome.
It's a fun job. I never really expected as a practitioner to be invited to have the opportunity to do something so much bigger than just seeing patients. We're all trained, right? Mm-hmm. Go to school, you see patients, and that's your job in your career. But the opportunity to do something so much bigger, so much broader, to affect what will now become the legacy of what I can contribute to optometry is really, it's fascinating.
And I have a lot of questions about that. I think myself included am just interested to hear your experiences of getting into that world,
Sure.
And then kind of how you have seen the industry from this other lens. Before we get into that, though, you have other kind of backstory. You've been in the military, you stepped out of the military. There's a lot that goes on with that. Can you kind of share your story of how that became a career option for you?
It's a great question. It wasn't necessarily an option. It just sort of came my way. And my philosophy really in life is just say yes to whatever comes your way. And if you do that, you'll figure out the pathway for you. So what's my pathway? I don't know. I continue to figure that out every step along the way. But while I was in optometry school, I was there and we had a recruiter show up at SUNY and offered the opportunity to consider applying for a scholarship. And while there's certainly a financial opportunity to have the military pay for school, for me, not having come from a strong military background, I kind of was a little inquisitive. I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't really know what would be involved. And I applied. And I was fortunate to receive one of 5 scholarships. They paid for school, but the experience was so much bigger than just the military. Being able to serve your country, to be able to do optometry, to be able to put your uniform on every day was something just so much greater than I ever expected it could be. It was a lot of fun. I look not only back with memories, but still contribute as much as I can to not just optometry, but the military itself.
It's really cool. Now, you were in the Navy, correct?
I was.
So, just to get, again, to help people picture what that was like for people who haven't gone through that. When you were in optometry school, did you have to go through like basic training? Did you have to do anything like that?
I did. So while we were actually in classes, there wasn't an obligation for me.
Okay.
So my actual job was to go to school, to get good grades, to become the best optometrist I could be. During the summers, we did have training programs. So there was a training program, a boot camp, they call it, located in Newport, Rhode Island. And I had the opportunity to spend time not just with other optometry students or optometrists that had already graduated, but also with the dentists and also with the chaplains. So we spent a total of 4 weeks together. It was a 6-week program, sort of condensed. And we learned everything we needed to know in a very short time about the military, everything from military history to firefighting to shipboard and hospital safety to what our role was going to be and how to wear a uniform, how to lead people. And starting from day one, all the way through till the moment I started in the Naval Hospital, it was a constant training program on how to lead and how to become a better person and how to influence those around us to become better people. It was bigger than optometry.
I love that. I think that's a really unique experience and training and just mindset that you probably get from being in the military, because you enter in as an officer.
You do, but there's so much to learn before you even get there. And I think that for me personally, they helped me become the person I am today. So just an opportunity to sort of step back and say, why do I do what I do? And how can I help others to do what they need to do and achieve their goals, or quite frankly, exceed their goals?
Yeah.
That was what they taught us to do with our peers. So it wasn't just a manage up or manage down or manage over. It was, how can you use your own self to become your best leader and influence change across an organization, no matter where you are and what you do.
When you started right away, you graduate, you go straight into the Navy at that point, right? I
did. I graduated on a Sunday and Monday morning report for duty at the hospital.
And you were just doing optometric work. What was that like? What was? Can you share an experience of what your normal life was like in the Navy?
If you want to laugh a little bit, my first day, I was challenged by the 40 people that work for me that I might not be wearing my uniform appropriately, even though I thought I followed all the rules and shined my shoes perfectly. They did remind me from day one that I had some work to do to learn how to become the best officer I could. So it was a really fun program. But I showed up at the hospital, and I had 40 people that were in our clinic. We had 30 eye lanes, we had residents, we had every subspecialty in optometry, ophthalmology, and we're there immediately seeing patients. I had 5 students, I had 5 ophthalmology residents, and we just got right into it. Hands-on, day one, start seeing patients. But that was probably only half our time. The rest of it was doing other work, managing a hospital administration, going on rounds, being an officer responsible for the entire workings of a hospital once a month, for a 24-hour period. You just learn so much more than just about your job function.
Yeah, that sounds overwhelming. Here, figure this out.
Hey, look, what it did was it taught me there was nothing in my life I wouldn't be able to just figure out. And it was those lessons that, again, helped me today to be able to do whatever comes my way.
So you were in the Navy for how long?
A total of 8 years.
8 years.
So 3 years while I was in school, because I applied during my first year of optometry school. So they paid the remaining 3, and then your obligation is a year for a year with a minimum of a 5-year commitment with the program I did. Okay. So it was a total of 8 years, probably some of the best years of my life. So my all-time favorite patient that I ever saw while I was at the Naval Hospital in Bethesda, it was during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we had or Operation Enduring Freedom, but both similar. We had all the medevacs coming home from Germany. So while I didn't deploy, I did get to see the folks that deployed as they came home to the United States. And it was sort of like being in a movie where you'd go out to the helicopter pad in your scrubs or in your uniform and get them off the helicopters and go to the operating room and take care of folks. But one day, it was relatively early on in my career, my boss said to me, "Lieutenant, you're going to go upstairs to the ward, see a patient." And I said, "We don't go to the ward to see the patients." He said, "This one you're going to." And he said, "And bring lenses with you and bring your retinoscope and go do your thing." So I pack everything into my pockets, go upstairs, and it was a young man. He was there, and his wife was there with him. He was a Marine. He was 19. He was home. He had deployed and been sent home on the medevac, and he had lost his glasses, had blown up with an IED. So he couldn't see anything. And I thought, here I am, I'm a couple of months out of school. I can do anything, right? And I hung the Snellen chart up on the wall, and I measured everything out, and I took out my retinoscope, and I thought, gosh, she's probably about a -6, so I really better get close so he can see me. And we finished the exam, and he wouldn't say anything except yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, the whole time. And I said to him, I'm going to go ahead and get some lenses. I'll put some contact lenses on you. And so I went down, got the lenses for him, and I said, I'm going to sit you up so we can do this. He said, no, ma'am. I said, what do you mean, no? He said, no, ma'am. I said, well, can I get some help? I'd be happy to get help. And no, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And he's got his parents there, her parents there, his wife. She's very clearly pregnant. And fast forward the story, but he allowed me to sit his bed up. And he had been wearing the sheets and blankets on the hospital bed. And as I elevated the bed with the electronic machine, the sheet started to roll down. And he had no arms and he had no legs. And at that moment, I realized that the contact lens that I had in my pocket was going to quite literally change his life. So I taught his wife, who was about 3 weeks now from having their first child, how to put his lenses in and take them out, because he clearly wasn't going to be able to do it. And I put on those lenses for him for the first time. And he's a pretty big man. I mean, his body was rather large. And he had some strong features. And all of a sudden, a tear started to roll down his face. And I thought, are you okay? Do they hurt? Did I do something? And he just started to cry. And he said, permission to speak freely? Permission granted. He said, you just changed my life. You saved me. And I thought to myself, all I did was put a contact lens on. And he said, my wife's about to have our first child, and I can't hold it. I can't walk to it. I can't even see it. And you've now given me the ability to do that with a contact lens. And for me, at that moment, I thought, what we do as optometrists, what I can do for these people is absolutely magnificent. I have literally changed the world with something so simple for us. He now has 3 children. I still keep in touch with him. He lives in Atlanta, and he grants that moment in time as what he felt saved his whole life, a contact lens.
It's amazing. I love those sort of stories, and I know so many doctors who have something, maybe not quite such a unique situation, but bravo to you.
Thank you.
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for you and for all of those. It's amazing.
Thank you. Part of the beauty of being active duty and giving back to your country is being able to have moments like that you recognize that optometry is so much bigger. And you put your uniform on every day and you buckle your belt and you make sure your ribbons are on straight, but you're giving so much more than just eye care or just guidance to your team of people in your clinic. You're giving back to the world in a way that it's indescribable.
So that is a pretty intense experience. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
It's my pleasure.
Do you have any other, I mean, obviously that was a huge moment of inspiration in seeing your value in everything in what we do as optometrists. Do you have any other just interesting experiences in the military that just changed your perspective on, again, being a leader, our role as optometrists, or anything that you think back and you're like, oh, that was a cool...
Yeah, I think that, again, the opportunity to be in the military as an optometrist, as a provider in general, you are part of this community, similar to how we have in optometry today. But in the military, it was a little different. We were giving back in such a great way, and I did things I never thought I would have the opportunity to do. Part of that was just saying yes. But within the first couple of weeks, I found myself at the White House or at the Pentagon or seeing folks from the Supreme Court. And our nation's leaders and being able to care for them and to provide service that we're just trained to do every day is something that is so much bigger than what I thought I was going to do in my life. And I realized at that moment that my just saying yes was something so much greater. And I had something unique and a real way that I could change the world. And that was sort of began this whole opportunity. Each one that comes my way, how can I maximize that? How can I make that bigger? And how can I really use myself, my skills, my leadership, every experience that I had to shape the next one, to change people around me?
What motivated you to, at your 5 years, you're like, okay, I could choose to make a career out of this or change?
So had I had the opportunity, at the time my husband was also active duty. So he was on naval intelligence, and that's about all we can say.
Okay.
It was wonderful, but we had things that were happening in life that I needed to make a decision at that point. It was a sort of a pivot point in the career. We could either stay and make a full career out of it, which would be at least another 15, or take a different pathway. And at the time, made the best decision that we could for the family, and it was the time to resign my commission.
And from there, you switched into private practice, correct?
I did, actually. So we moved back home to New Jersey, and I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to work and practice in the town I grew up in. So that was wonderful to be able to see everybody I knew, their parents, their children, and just be reintegrated back into civilian life in such a meaningful way, sort of give back to my own community after I'd given back to our country.
And was that, you opened your own practice? Did you join a practice? How did that work?
I joined essentially the practice that was in town, and it was a wonderful experience. So most everybody I knew, 25,000 people in my hometown, we all went there, and now I had the opportunity to provide care out of there.
Cool.
It was fun.
And so how long were you doing that before you switched into working in industry?
So, the industry opportunity is a unique one. I think there are a lot of optometrists that join, that ask about joining. I have an opportunity to talk to. My pathway was somewhat unique. I was there in private practice for almost 7 years at that particular location, only there. And throughout that time, I had various engagements, opportunities to spend some time with folks in industry. So I did things like work with the training team at Bausch Lomb, where I got to go in, kind of educate the new sales reps. What's an optometrist? What's ophthalmology? What's opticianry? How do you talk to them? What are they looking for? And then help them understand where products fit in and how they could make a difference or help doctors make a difference. And that was sort of my first taste of, this is kind of an interesting way to give back to optometry. I wonder what this could turn into. So I did that for a while, and then got involved in the speaking circuit a little bit and just sort of tested my waters a little, what else is out there? Because I don't think in school we're necessarily exposed to the fact that industry could be an opportunity for optometrists.
I would say definitely not. I think it was something that the word was there. It's like, oh, you could join industry. But no one really explained or gave a mental picture of what that life would be like, or how to even maybe go down that path. Because in school, we're really just trained to be clinicians.
100%. And what that looks like for anybody interested in industry can be wildly different. So what my role is could be completely different from the next optometrist role in another company, or quite frankly, even within Bausch Lomb. So the opportunity to join it's a personal decision, and understanding what you can do and how you can contribute can really make the decision for you as to whether or not you want to move forward or how you can maximize that opportunity.
Can you give us, or just paint a picture of, because again, you have a unique role, but can you paint a picture of what your role is within a week or a month or a year in your shoes? What does life look like for you in your career?
If I could do that, I think it would be a wonderful thing. And the beauty of my job is every single day is different. So what I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to do is to work with our medical affairs and our research and development and our clinical teams to work on new products. So sometimes I'm working with them on the product development side. And then I have the opportunity to work with the marketing teams. So once you have a product, then how do you go to market with it? How do you talk to a doctor? What's important to them? How do we share the information? How do we teach them how to integrate it into practice? To then, how can we create materials to help them do that in a better way? And then working with the sales organization to teach them or have them practice or break down barriers that maybe they don't understand certain things. So every single day is different, or I get to travel or do things like this and
Yeah.
talk to colleagues and develop relationships and, again, just impact the future. So really every day is different, but that's the beauty of the role that I have.
Do you think your perspective of optometry has changed in any way through your experience?
I do. I really believe that I thought optometry was simply taking care of patients. But I'm certain that you'd agree. It's so much more than just that. And leaving taking care of patients every single day, that was kind of I often say it's the hardest, easy decision I ever had to make. Because going from taking care of my small community to helping so many more people, take care of so many more people, take care of so many more people, now a global impact, right? Being part of a global organization is such a wonderful thing. And then over the last 10 years, since I've joined Bausch Lomb, our industry has changed so much. And the beauty of being an optometrist within industry, while it's changing, is that we can help shape that.
Yeah.
And when you have leaders or visionaries that I have an opportunity to work with every day, we get to influence that and become part of the change and shape so that we, as seeing patients as optometrists, can still do what we do and evolve it and change the future.
Do you have any other kind of experiences or stories of like great success or just times where you've been able to sit back and be like, wow, this is amazing, or this is like just such a cool opportunity to have this, working at that capacity?
Sure. Actually, one of the things I never really thought I would have an opportunity to do was to launch a product. I didn't know what that meant, right? As optometrists, they show up in our office and there's a sales rep and they open up a box, whether it's educating us on a new pharmaceutical agent or a contact lens or an over-the-counter product. It just shows up. I had no idea the years and years of work that would go into ultimately what we just have to hand out and make it.
Coming up with an idea for a product, would this work? And then all the research and formulations, testing.
Yep. The failures along the way, the successes along the way, and being part of that ride has been something that's been absolutely spectacular. And then to culminate it all and bring that to doctors in an educational program was something I just didn't know, right? Doctor dinners and the opportunity to speak to folks, that's pretty common. All companies do it. But I was afforded an opportunity to do it on a grand scale, 400, 500 people at a time, where we can bring them together and create a community of optometry where they learn together and they grow together and they become better at what they do through learning about a product, but not only a product. And to be able to do that and create a platform for doctors to learn was something I never thought I would have the opportunity to do. So for me, that kind of exposure, we called it Believe. And at the time, Bausch Lomb was launching a lot of really great products. So we used this platform to then continue to educate, re-educate, and bring doctors together to allow them not just to believe in the company, but to believe in each other and to believe in the profession.
Are there any times where you were challenged in a way about that seemed maybe even like, how do we do that? How do we figure that out? How do we better help solve this issue for doctors? Or how do we better explain this or motivate? I don't know. What?
Every single day. I still do. Literally every day. But the beauty of that is that what I think a lot of people don't necessarily do is lean on those folks around you. You can't do it all alone, and you've got to surround yourself with people that either have done it before or will help you figure it out. And for me in industry, that's been the success factor, is finding those folks that can help us win. And if you surround yourself with great people like that, there's nothing you can't do. You may have a couple of bumps along the road, but you'll always figure it out. And the people by your side are the ones that, you become a team that really can change the trajectory.
Is there, I don't know if you can share this or not, but is there any specific project that you are most proud of that you've worked on?
100%. In the contact lens space, 100%. So when I joined Bausch Lomb in October of 2014, so we're almost at our 10-year anniversary, I sat with a bunch of other optometrists. There are a number of us within the organization, and we said, what can we do a little different? How can we change what optometry thinks about products or companies or people? And so we came up with this concept of how can we create a contact lens that maybe doctors can consider more than just as a refractive device. Just what else should we be thinking about? And as optometrists, we have a pretty big portfolio of products and knowledge, and we can specialize anywhere. And we thought, how can we think a little bigger? And the idea to look outside of what we naturally think of contact lenses to do and bring that knowledge inside was something I like to think a little bit different, if possible. So while everybody else is thinking about turning right, if we can turn left a little bit, it may cause people to think a little bit different. So we came up with a concept that ultimately, through a lot of batting around internally, became INFUSE. And it wasn't just my concept, of course. It was a team of people that came together that said, how can we come up with a lens that brings knowledge from outside of a contact lens space into the contact lens space that can deliver something that patients don't have today? And we all sat around a table and looked through the Deuce 2 reports and researched and looked and planned, and it was just something I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do.
Yeah, let's figure out ways to get electrolytes and stabilizers mixed into this lens to release over time, right?
Exactly. You bring in some brilliant chemists and the magic really happens.
And that just comes with design, ingenuity, seeing a problem and trying to fix it, and having that creativity to try to do that.
100%, but it's not only me. So I get the problem or the situation from optometry, and that's the other part of the beauty of the job, is being able to talk to optometrists all over the world and understand, what do you need or what do you not have, and how can we solve it?
Yeah.
And then just use our brains in a different way than just seeing patients would allow us to.
And I think there's something I feel in that. I've always wanted to have like an invention or something like that. And in a way, like as a group, you guys helped invent and bring something new into this world, into this market that now is helping millions and millions and millions of people, whether they know what's going on in their eye or appreciate it. Like
we know, right?
Yeah.
And you asked, something that maybe pause and step back and say, wow. It's moments like this that you have to step back and say, I've really done something. I've been part of something that's done something. We're changing the way people think in a positive way. Right. And that, to me, we've just scratched the surface of where we're going to go.
And I think what's also beautiful is that being that you started as an optometrist, as a clinician, you've been able to take that to serve your country, and then from there, serve your community back home. And even furthermore, now working in industry, you're serving a major role within the business of Bausch Lomb, but you are still, whether directly, indirectly, you're helping so many other doctors.
Yes.
And the profession as a whole. So I think just me sitting back and thinking about all those things, I think it's amazing that you've had those opportunities, and that's really cool.
I feel really fortunate, and I won't say they always will come everybody's way, but if you go looking for areas where you can be impactful, they'll come your way. You just need to find the right people along your path to create the path with you.
Have any younger doctors ever come up to you and asked you, like, for advice, like maybe they're thinking of industry, or if there's ways that they could, anything that you would recommend if somebody's listening to this and they're like, maybe that's something I would like to try and be a part of? Would you have any advice or any kind of thoughts you'd like to share?
Absolutely. In fact, I had lunch with somebody today. So almost every single week I get a note or an email or a text message from somebody who's got a question, whether it's a practicing optometrist or somebody interested in optometry school or a challenge they're facing. For me, part of the beauty of the job is to be able to impact the future in a broad scale, right? Products, development, all that. But moments where I have an opportunity to help an individual are those moments that are transformative for me, because I know that somebody's reached out the same way I would have reached out to somebody who might have been in my type of role to say, how do I do this? Is this something for me? Do I have the passion to do what you do? Or is there some other pathway? So I would encourage anybody that's listening, if you're even at all interested and you have passion to do something, just try it. Find somebody. There are people along the way. We all want to help. And when we have folks that can reach out to us, we would love to bring them under our wing and bring them along for the ride and help more people help us change the world and pass that then torch on to them.
Do you think you could ever see yourself going back into the clinic, or you're like, no, this is where you find your most success or flow state, you feel most at home in the kind of position you're in?
So it's funny. The first year that I was here in industry was the most challenging, only because I really missed the clinical aspect of seeing patients every day and having that enormous impact of, even if it was a very small change numerically for a patient refractively, or monitoring something in the retina, or whatever it was we were doing, I was impacting a person's life however many times a day. Leaving that was hard. But then recognizing I could help so many more people to do that so many more times was wonderful. Would I ever go back? Possibly. Mm-hmm. It would be a tough sell, though, because right now I feel as though my contribution can be so much greater than on an individual scale that I don't know I would want to go back.
Yeah.
Looking forward is a great place to look.
So you've worked on multiple projects then over time, certainly with contact lenses. And have you been involved with some of the newer products that have just been kind of introduced and coming out from Bausch Lomb?
Absolutely. So the beauty of the role and being an optometrist within the organization is that they lean on optometry in a holistic fashion. So both the consumer team with Lumify and all of those products, that was a fun one to be part of, challenging me a little bit to think about how do you bring that to the professional in a consumer-focused way. So it was a lot of fun to provide guidance or advice or perspective, and I needed optometry to help me do that. So I work with so many people to make that happen. And then the same thing with the pharmaceutical side. As we start looking at other products or looking to what the future is, one of the things I really appreciate about Bausch Lomb is the voice of the doctor is always the lens that they're looking through. So what we need comes first, and as long as they're doing what doctors need for patients and putting that first, everything else falls into place.
Right now, here, we're for viewers, listeners who are tuning in, we're recording this at Optometry's meeting here in Nashville, Tennessee. And last night I got to kind of hear and learn about the new NutriTears product that just came out, which I've been kind of just following for a little bit. Is that something that you've been involved in too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Again, the beauty is being able to have the opportunity to learn so much about so many different products and bringing them to market. Mm-hmm. That's another example of how can we think about ocular surface disease, dryness, dry eye, how we manage patients in a way that we might not have thought of before.
Sure.
And we challenge ourselves every single day as optometrists to do more, to do better, to think bigger. And that's an example of a product that was studied and studied and studied and studied more so than many other products, particularly in the consumer type commercial space, have been studied. So there's a ton of science behind that, which as a practitioner makes me so confident to be able to bring that forth to doctors that they can confidently recommend something that's going to make a difference for patients, but they can still buy that over the counter. So I'd encourage anybody listening, go find out the science behind that one.
Yeah, and this is not like a sponsored sort of thing. It's just that I have genuine interest in supplements, vitamins, lifestyle, health, those sort of things. And I think a lot of doctors have curiosity, optometrists, about supplements, because I think in some parts of healthcare, there's like very naysay about some things like supplements. But in eye care, right, we've had these landmark studies on retinal health, on macular degeneration that every student learns,
Yes.
Front to back. And I'll use that when I meet other professionals who are not in the eye care space. And there's some doctors who are like, no, vitamins don't do anything. And I'm like, well, there are some disease states where it's absolutely necessary, or based on the research, that's what is indicated. But I think still, as healthcare professionals, and it's good,
Yes.
right? It's good for us to have some moment of like doubt and be like, well, let's really double check the research and all those sort of things. But have you noticed any challenge or any pushback, not just in optometry, but from just kind of thoughts of how introducing a new over-the-counter vitamin supplement would be adopted?
So it's interesting and a great question, because we're just launching now. And so those questions are beginning to come in. And a moment ago, I shared with you the science-backed research, the information, the way this is studied and studied and studied again is something to be so proud of. And rather than just bringing something that people will challenge or question, we've got all the science behind it. So to be an optometrist, to be part of that, that's kind of part of changing the world, is we can change the mindset of practitioners to say, think a little bit about the science, go understand the research that went into it, because you might be surprised that there's a lot more out there that we still have an opportunity to learn. So for me, I have an opportunity to educate on that. And what a brilliant way to change the way optometry thinks about products they might not have.
I imagine Bausch Lomb probably had to put a lot of time and effort to design research studies to help kind of validate, and then to just years of running those sort of studies, and then time to make sure that everything was analyzed correctly in the statistics and reported. So
it's actually goes back to one of your other questions, is what do I do every day? So we get to take all of that and say, now that we have it, what do we do with it? And how can we then best take that and share it? Because there's an embarrassment of all this great information, but we need to distill that down and say, how can we make that meaningful to doctors? And that's really something that gives me pause, gives me confidence that what we do, what I have an opportunity to do every day, really does make a difference. My goal, though, is to say, how do I share that with the world? And how can I help the company share that with the world? And how do we help optometry share it with the world?
Well, I think these are all just amazing perspectives. I love it. I'm curious, what got you so passionate about optometry in the first place?
So I do come from a long line of family full of optometrists. So I have a father that's an optometrist, my younger brother is an optometrist, and I have two uncles that are optometrists. Okay. Probably not terribly surprising, because there are a lot of optometric families out there that we do tend to follow one another. For me, it was an opportunity to make a difference, and I think it goes a long way for a lot of people that join optometry. If you were to go to any optometry school and I think listen to any of their interview questions, optometry wants to change the world. For me, I actually think I can in the role that I have.
I love that. And now you have children of your own. Do you think they're inspired to go into optometry at all? I
don't. I have 3 wonderful children, and I couldn't be any more proud. And the way that we've raised them at home is to make sure that they follow their own passions. So while mine was optometry, or changing the world through optometry, they've each got their own. And it's been a fun ride to watch them grow up and now follow their own passions.
So what I like to end the podcast on, and is always kind of a unique question for doctors who are on, is if you were elected to be kind of the Surgeon General of optometry, you were elected, hey, we want you to be the leader and representative of all optometry for the next year. The one change, if you could have like that one wish mission to be like, I need to change this in optometry, or I need to change this about public access or public health in some way, what do you think would be the one thing that you think is most important you would like to see change?
I'd actually like to see the mindset of optometry open. I want to make sure that optometry is open to change. Our world is changing, and for us as a profession to continue to evolve and make sure that we still exist and we push the limits for what we do, I want optometrists to just keep an open mind and say yes. Just like I did with my profession, with my career, with my life, is get optometry to do that in general so that we can continue to truly make a difference.
Right. Instead of being complacent and just kind of sit, be like, no, the world is changing, let's go after it. That's our attitude.
And be in advance of it, not even go after it. We can shape it if we do it together we do it right.
Have you seen the movie Yes Man by chance?
I have.
Okay. That's just what I think of when it's like, no, you should be saying yes. You know, those... Within reason, right? There's so many things you don't want maybe to say yes to everything, but
pretty close. Yeah. If you can say yes, you'll figure out your path along the way, because there are so many. It's the greatest profession in the world. We have really an opportunity. We have a community of folks that will always help one another, and we see it whether we're challenged or whether we're supporting one another, or challenged. I mean specifically by something external. We come together, and if we just say yes, we'll figure out the way.
I know for a lot of opportunities that have come my way, I'll just share this, that it's usually the opportunities that scare me a little bit. Those end up being the ones that I'm like, I have to say yes to, because they always end up being like the best decision I've ever made.
100%. It's the story of my life, right? Imagine joining the military and then you move away and you do things you've never done before. You join industry. I mean, you just say yes. They're scary and they're the most rewarding without question, because you grow the most and you help others grow the most.
Well, this has all been fantastic. Jill, thank you so much for being a guest here. So,
Thank you so much. The pleasure will be mine. Doors always open, and I'd love to meet anyone and everyone that would like to learn more about industry, optometry, myself, my career, and certainly appreciate the time today.
So that was our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are somebody who is deeply passionate about our profession or gives a damn about a specific topic that may be affecting our industry in some way, please let us know either in the comment section over on YouTube or in the review section. Leave us a solid review on whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, and let us know if there is a person in our industry that you would love to hear from, or perhaps a specific topic that you would like to hear in more of a deeper conversation on this podcast. Otherwise, thank you so much again for listening in. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next episode.